What do you think are some of the other biggest neurophilosophical questions today that are being tackled in 2024? What are the big questions that the field is really searching for answers in?
Well, I see this because I run this annual conference, and so I can really see what people are working on. So right now, I think one of the really hot topics is cognitive ontology. What are the basic categories of cognition? And let's look to neuroscience in order to find what those are. So again, that's nothing that I've ever done any work on or have a lot of interest in, but I'm seeing lots of people who are doing PhDs now who are thinking about those kinds of issues, trying to read an account of cognition off what's being discovered in neuroscience. I'm also seeing there's a lot of work, and this kind of goes into both neuroscience and computational modeling. There's a lot of work on what exactly is this notion of representation in neuroscience. What are neuroscientists claim? What do they mean when they say that particular brain activity represents that? And so there's a lot of work on that notion, and that's really interesting because it kind of involves both neuroscientific work and the more computational work that's going on. And again, let's face it, like every other field that has anything to do with science, generative AI and its role is becoming absolutely central. I was on the Philosophy of Science Association's poster committee this year to review abstracts for poster presentation at the annual meeting in November. I think they sent me 30 abstracts to review. 17 of those 30 had something to do with generative AI. And and you're seeing that now more and more in neuroscience as well. And in fact, what's really cool about that, so for example, my group, the Deep South Philosophy and Neuroscience Work Group, is now affiliated with the Southern Society for Philosophy and Psychology. I give a session at every meeting. And the session I'm going to give at next year's meeting, I'm going to bring in two neuroscientists, one who works in microscopy and one who works in imaging, functional imaging. And they're going to explain to this broader audience how they're using generative AI in their day-to-day research with those particular data sets and that they work with. And it's going to be a fascinating presentation because, it's going to show how practicing very, very, very well-funded neuroscientists are using generative AI in their day-to-day work. And, and so I think it's going to be another kind of like real way, because that's such a hot topic right now in philosophy of science generally. And,
and globally. Yeah.
So, I mean, right. It's one of the huge, it's one of the landmarks of our times. I mean,
right. So explain that more. So how are neuroscientists using generative AI? Because I think,
I'm going to learn something from this. And I'm planning to learn something from this presentation too. I mean, they're using it. They're using it. It seems to me, at least talking with my colleague Brad Walters down in University of Mississippi Medical Center, they're almost a hypothesis generating kind of resource.
Interesting.
But I'm really looking forward to hearing these details, and that's why I wanted to set this session up, because I think this is going to be something that's going to be really important. Because I think you're going to see more and more people start to use it. We're seeing its use on, all kinds of things now. People like, just questions about, I bet people, I have no idea, but I know that some journals are really getting worried about this because they're worried that people are just basically, using generative AI and then sending the paper in.
Oh, I've seen a few terrible examples of this because the no generative AI is particularly good at words and letters yet. I've seen some horrible examples on X of people just posting full AI photographs where the words are gobbledygook. They're not even words, they're just letters. How does that get past a journal? How does that get past the peer review? How does that get past anyone that looks at the photo for more than 2 seconds?
No, you got to think about peer review though. You've mentioned this problem earlier. Yeah. Think about peer review. Look, I try to be as careful. I review a lot of papers, both from neuroscience and philosophy journals. And I try to be as careful as I can. But, I'll be the first to admit it, right? When I get a peer review paper and it's getting close to the deadline, to get the review back in. I'm kind of going, okay, I've got a couple hours this afternoon where I'm kind of beat and I'm not going to get any writing done, or I'll review the paper now. I mean, that's there's no getting around it. I mean,
human error
this is a professional task that we hope everybody takes seriously. But, when it comes to sort of prioritizing things, I mean,
am I right in saying you don't get paid for it as well? It's completely voluntary.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Like it's just work. It's hours of work from very busy professional people who are incredibly smart and doing other things. Mm-hmm. And these journals just expect for them to basically correct their homework.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I've always done it, and if you really wanted to ask me the reason for why I've done as much peer reviewing as I've done, it's not because I enjoy it. I mean, it's work, and it's not my favorite kind of work, but I just like to kind of stay in good with the journal editors, right? Because I would be sending them my stuff, and I'd kind of like for them to send it out to a sympathetic reviewer. I mean, because we all know how that works. I mean, that's kind of the reason why I've always done it.
Right. If you enjoyed that short podcast clip, then be sure to click on the full podcast that you can watch here.